morning sun peeked through the tall windows of Corona Castle, spilling golden light across the floor of Rapunzel's royal bedroom. Birds chirped outside, and flowers swayed in the soft breeze. It was a beautiful day, but not just any day. "Pascal," Rapunzel said excitedly, sitting up in bed with a big smile. "Today is the royal spring ball." Pascal, her tiny green chameleon, popped his head out from beneath her pillow, blinking sleepily. He stretched and yawned, then climbed onto her shoulder. "The ball starts tonight at sunset," Rapunzel continued, "and I want everything to be perfect, especially my dress." She leaped from bed and ran to her tall wooden wardrobe, pulling open the double doors with a dramatic flair. Inside hung dozens of dresses in every color she could imagine, flowing gowns in sunset orange, soft blues like the sky, warm earthy greens, and pastel pinks like spring roses. Rapunzel took out a few and held them up. Too poofy, too sparkly, too last season," she sighed. "Pascal, none of these feel right. I want something special. Something that says, 'This is me.'" Pascal nodded and pointed to her paintbrushes and sketch pad sitting in the corner. "You're right," Rapunzel said with a grin. "Why wear someone else's idea when I can create my own?" She sat by the window, flipping open her sketchbook. She closed her eyes for a moment and imagined what the perfect dress might look like. She saw soft layers of fabric, the color of early morning lavender. She saw delicate petals floating in the breeze, stitched right into the hem. She imagined a sash that shimmered like the moon and tiny sparkles like stars. Her hand moved quickly over the paper. She painted with watercolor, adding delicate flowers, swirling patterns, and hints of golden thread. Just then, a voice called from the doorway, "Making a new masterpiece, sunshine." It was Eugene, standing with a mischievous smile and a flower in hand. "I'm designing my dress for the ball," Rapunzel said proudly, holding up her sketch. "What do you think?" Eugene leaned in, whistled, and handed her the flower. "I think it's going to make everyone speechless, including me." Rapunzel giggled and tucked the flower behind her ear. Soon after, she ran to the sewing room, where Madame Thimble, the royal seamstress, was already working on decorations for the ball. "Madame Thimble," Rapunzel called, "can you help me make a dress?" The kind old woman looked up and adjusted her glasses. "Of course, Your Highness. Do you have a design?" Rapunzel handed her the sketch. The seamstress studied it carefully, then smiled. "This is the most beautiful design I've ever seen. Let's begin right away." Rapunzel helped select the fabric soft lavender silk, sheer tulle for the sleeves, silver thread, and small beads that shimmered like stardust. She even chose tiny dried wildflowers to be sewn along the neckline. They worked all morning and well into the afternoon. Pascal sat on the windowsill, watching with interest and sometimes bringing small tools to Madame Thimble. Rapunzel's fingers were covered in tiny threads and a little glue, but she didn't mind. As they finished stitching the final touches, Cassandra entered the room with a raised eyebrow. "You've turned the sewing room into an art studio. I couldn't help it," Rapunzel laughed. "I wanted something that felt like spring." "Well, it definitely feels like you," Cassandra said, secretly impressed. "And that's a compliment." At last, as the castle bells rang out the early evening hour, Rapunzel slipped into her new dress. The fabric flowed like water as she moved. The petals along the hem danced with each step. She braided her golden hair with silver ribbons and tucked fresh flowers into the strands. Pascal perched proudly on her shoulder, now wearing a tiny purple body. In the grand ballroom below, lanterns floated in the air like stars. Long tables were covered with treats, sugared strawberries, pink lemonade, tiny cakes with icing flowers, and glowing fruit punch in crystal bowls. Rapunzel entered the room and everything went quiet. The guest turned to look and gasped softly. She was radiant, like spring itself had come to life. Queen Ariana placed a hand over her heart, and King Frederick beamed with pride. Eugene made his way to her, eyes wide. "You look," he began, then paused. "You look like every flower in the world decided to bloom just for you." Rapunzel blushed and took his hand. "Thank you." As the music began to play, they danced together, slow, graceful steps that matched the rhythm of the evening breeze. Rapunzel's dress shimmered with every movement, and her hair twirled behind her like golden ribbon. Later that evening, Rapunzel stepped onto the balcony overlooking the gardens. Fireflies floated between the trees, and the stars twinkled above. Pascal curled up on her shoulder, sighing happily. "Wasn't tonight perfect?" she whispered. Eugene joined her, placing a warm cloak around her shoulders. "Everything was perfect, because you made it that way." Rapunzel smiled as she looked up at the stars. She had designed her dress, helped sew it with love, and danced under the lanterns with her best friends by her side. And in that moment, she felt more like a princess than ever before. The end.